You fine?
The story begins under the unforgiving sun of a dusty Afghanistan village, where Jake, a U.S. Army medic, is dragged forward by a group of armed men. Her hands are bound tightly, and the crowd around her chants with rising fury. At the center of it all is Amir, the feared terrorist leader, standing tall in his robes and commanding absolute control of the scene. Jake is shoved to her knees as villagers gather with stones in their hands. Amir raises his arm, announcing to the crowd and accusing Jake of having been caught disrespecting their religion, and that justice will be served. He gives a stone to each of her teammates who were also caught in their mission, and orders them to throw them at her. At first, they're hesitant, but seeing how seriously Amir is standing on business, they throw the first set of stones. Known not to tolerate any slander on their religion, the Islamic people follow suit and start ravaging her with hard rocks, just as the first wave of stones is about to be exhausted. Chaos erupts. Gunfire breaks out in the distance, scattering the crowd. 2 fully loaded choppers have been sent from America with the sole purpose of rescuing Jake. She tries to tell them to rescue the rest of her teammates, but things get so heated that they barely manage to escape alive with one of the choppers. Months later, in Quetta International Girls High School, a girl named Badia and her friends hang out in the school bathroom to talk about interesting events going on in their lives. Suddenly, a group of ISIS terrorists, led by Amir, invades their school, killing all the teachers and abducting the students.
Which one is the whore Durrani's daughter?
Their target is finding Badia Durrani, the Minister of Education's daughter. Being in the bathroom, the girls have an edge. They quietly slip out and head to the rooftop to hide. When Amir realizes that Badia is nowhere to be found, he heads back into the school with a group of men in search of her. The girls try to escape, but are caught in a matter of time, and some of them get thrown off the rooftop to their deaths. The remaining girls, who are also daughters of prominent government officials and foreign dignitaries, are abducted alongside Badia. Only 7 girls are taken into custody from the school, some of whom are Americans.
For the daughters of the American diplomats.
The terrorists make their message clear. They demand $10 million for each girl, along with the release of Sheikh al-Shamali, whom they claim to be a holy man, imprisoned by the corrupt Taliban government. News of the incident travels fast, and the U.S. attempts a rescue mission by sending a Delta Force unit, but unfortunately, the mission collapses into carnage, with no survivors making it out.
After that, I don't think I'll pick a fight.
Running out of options, they reach out to Jake, who is still haunted by failures she carries like ghosts. When she's summoned, she doesn't need to be told the mission is dangerous. She just accepts, because she has an uneven score with Amir, and would really love to settle things with him.
Canadian passport and ID.
She gets a fake ID forged under the name Jessica Rabbit to keep her undercover. After landing from her long flight, Jake barely has time to stretch her legs before she's scooped up by Malik, a driver who doubles as a local guide.
People drive crazy in Pakistan.
Malik drives like the roads belong to him, honking at goats and potholes with equal aggression, until he finally delivers her straight to the team's base. Waiting for her is a group of women who look like they'd rather be anywhere else than greeting the recruit. The vibe in the room is colder than the airplane food Jake just endured. This squad is not your ordinary task force. They're disguised as an NGO medical unit, meant to slip quietly into places where any soldier in uniform would spark a war before even asking for directions. Jake was sent to aid the team in the mission of rescuing the girls. Jake sizes them up one by one. There's Rocky, the hard-boiled mechanic who treats engines like family but humans like faulty spare parts. Geek, the tech wizard, is known for hacking signals and surveillance systems faster than you can say bad Wi-Fi. Shooter, the weapons expert, has hands so steady, it's as if coffee never existed in her life. The bomb, the team's explosives prodigy, is far too comfortable handling things that go boom.
Oh, and here's our medic.
And medic is the calm, steady one, armed with compassion and gauze in equal measure. Standing awkwardly among them is Doctor Mike, a civilian doctor who would rather be anywhere else but got dragged into this circus because he just wanted to deliver supplies to the NGO. Together, with Jake reluctantly thrown into the mix, they make up a squad of angels in disguise. Later, when the team is still warming up to each other, Jake heads off to an internet cafe. The place is dim, buzzing with old fans and humming computers that look like they're one angry click away from retirement. She manages to get in touch with Awena, an old ally. Jake asks for information on where the kidnapped girls are hidden. Awena, clearly not in the mood for reunions, claims she has nothing.
I'm Taliban and loyal to my country.
And pleads with Jake to leave her out of this. But Jake doesn't budge. She simply throws down an ultimatum like someone ordering takeout with no intention of paying. Their conversation gets cut short when Travis, the so-called task force leader sent from America, interrupts with a call. Travis tells Jake to meet him at an undisclosed location, where he briefs her about their next move.
How many people are you telling about your secret plan?
Not long after, Camilla Durrani, the minister, strolls in wearing a disguise that fools absolutely no one. She's desperate, worried sick about her daughter, and makes it clear she's willing to pay the ransom herself if the Americans fail. She has a chilling prediction that her daughter will be executed first.
So the Americans use some back channel to pay for their own.
Paraded as an example to force the Americans into terror and adherence to their demands. Before leaving, she tells them she's arranged a safe passage across the border through an old friend, sparing them the risk of being caught too soon. With no time to waste, the team sets out, piling into Malik's truck. Malik now has backup in the form of his older brother Abbas, who seems to enjoy correcting Malik's directions more than anything else. Together, the brothers serve as guides, while the women load up the medical supplies that double as their cover. On the course of their journey, they eventually hit a checkpoint where soldiers stop them. What starts as routine questioning turns sour fast. The soldiers begin ripping open boxes of medical supplies and tossing them around like children, unwrapping unwanted Christmas presents. Jake can feel the tension rising when their ass gets saved by a superior officer, who steps in calmly. Unlike his reckless subordinates, this man seems to have some sense. He halts the chaos, grants the task force official permission to continue, and even hands them a number to call if they run into more trouble. Meanwhile, at the terrorist's base, Amir sends for one of the American hostages and promises to release her. All she has to do is deliver a letter to the Taliban police station. The task force, however, arrives at the city where Sheikh al-Shamali is imprisoned. Travis sets out with the bomb and shooter to fetch some weapons, which he had kept hidden somewhere in the city. Jake, on the other hand, puts on a disguise and meets up with Awena at the city outskirts for leads. Arriving at the location, Travis and the girls are blown to see that the entire building where the weapons were stored has been destroyed, almost like the ops had leads on them. One of Amir's men takes the American girl to the police station, where she delivers the note to the officers she meets there. In an unexpected twist of events, the car that the man uses to drive her down to the station
for betraying your faith and
explodes after he runs out of it, destroying the entire building, with everyone inside. With no real weapons or ammunition, the mission is hanging by a thread, and everyone knows it. The team sits in silence, staring at the meager supplies in front of them. Bandages, syringes, and a few boxes of antibiotics aren't exactly going to win them a firefight. It's like going into a boxing ring armed with nothing but a first aid kit and a polite smile. Realizing that they are about one unlucky step away from failure, Abbas proposes that they take a more aggressive approach. If they don't have weapons, they'll just have to steal some from the base, and the team agrees to it. The plan is to infiltrate one of the soldiers' bases in the city and strip it of every rifle and bullet they can carry. But with their small numbers, even Jake admits the odds are terrible, so they hatch a different plan altogether. That same night, while the city sleeps, they create chaos by triggering an explosion in an empty building not too far from the base. The blast shakes windows, rattles the ground, and immediately draws soldiers out in panic. Having already lost a police station to a bombing earlier in the day, the troops assume it's the same terrorists striking again. Their target base empties, soldiers sprinting to deal with the smoke and fire. For the task force, dealing with the handful of guards left behind is like finding an unlocked front door at a bank. They slip in quietly and take down the few soldiers. Within minutes, the base is theirs. The women strip it of weapons, ammo, grenades, and anything that looks remotely useful. For the first time, they actually feel like they have a fighting chance. Geek, with her eyes glued to the flickering feed of surveillance cameras, immediately sounds the alarm. The soldiers who went chasing the smoke have realized the trick and are already on their way back. The team has little time. They scatter around the compound, planting landmines and makeshift traps. By the time the soldiers storm back in, expecting to reclaim their post, they walk straight into a symphony of explosions. Chaos erupts as mines go off, and soldiers stumble into ambushes. The task force fights back fiercely, but they also know it won't be long before the enemy regroups. As they retreat through the smoke, disaster strikes. Dr. Mike, the reluctant civilian who never signed up for any of this madness, is hit by a bullet. He collapses on the ground, clutching his side. Jake orders the team to turn back and get him, but everyone else shouts her down. Running back into enemy fire for a dead man is suicide, they argue. After a painful pause, she makes the call that they're going back. The team turns around, fighting their way back through the chaos to grab Dr. Mike's body. They succeed, but at a heavy cost. Travis, their leader from America, is struck down in the process. When they finally escape the base, Rocky, who rarely shows emotion beyond irritation, finally erupts in anger. She blames Jake outright for the reckless decision that cost them Travis as well. Travis's final words still hang. He used his last breath to beg Jake to bring the girls home. Needing to bury the dead with dignity, the team calls the number the checkpoint officer gave them earlier. But Jake doesn't trust anyone to stick around voluntarily.
It wasn't.
So while the man answers their call, Geek quietly tracks his location through the line. The next morning, they arrive at his modest home and plead with him to give them ground to bury two of their own. Reluctantly, he agrees, and Jake and Abbas start to dig. While they work, the soldier makes a phone call, summoning the minister. Camilla Durrani arrives quickly, expressing genuine sorrow for Jake's loss. She also comes bearing a briefcase, stacked with $10 million for her daughter's safety. Camilla is terrified her daughter's time is running out. Checking the money, Jake discovers that every single bill is counterfeit.
I assume that's why you're here? To escape?
The minister, without batting an eye, explains that it won't matter because the terrorists aren't American, and it'll take them a while to realize they've been handed funny money. After Camilla departs, Jake takes control again. She orders everyone to smash their phones and burn their IDs. From now on, if any of them get caught, they should claim to be American citizens. Better to be prisoners of politics than nameless captives with no leverage. Meanwhile, far away, Amir, the man pulling the strings of this nightmare, summons Badia, the minister's daughter. He gives her a grotesque choice that if she agrees to marry him, she can spare her friends from being executed. Of course, he has no intention of releasing them, but if she agrees to his demands, he'd marry them off to his most loyal and brutal fighters. All he expects from her is to become his bride.
Because weak women make weak children.
And bear him powerful and ruthless children like himself. Awina meets up with the team in a while.
You mustn't have left witnesses.
And gives them intel about the location of Sheikh al-Shamali, who is being transported to a more secure prison.
Seek out a prison and trade him.
Jake decides they intercept the transportation and hijack the prisoner to negotiate with Amir through him.
Wants money.
She asks Awine to tender her phone, and Awina replies that she wasn't dumb enough to bring it. Advance with the mission. They set traps and lie in ambush while the prisoner gets transported, and manage to capture him successfully. But Rocky gets into a terrible accident during the mission, and is stuck under a boss. She tells the team to leave her behind as Taliban soldiers begin to arrive at the venue. She promises not to disclose her identity. Later that evening, Rocky is killed on live TV by the Taliban forces, who publicly announce her to be among the ISIS terrorists. Jake realizes they have been betrayed by Awina, who has been feeding information to the terrorists and is currently bringing them straight to them with a tracker. She knocks her out, leaving the money behind with her and Sheikh al-Shamali, while the rest of them evacuate immediately. Jake had hidden a tracker in the stash of money, which they used to secretly follow the terrorists back to their base. The hideout is a cavernous warren carved into the mountainside. The team disguises itself in flowing burqas, but beneath the fabric, rifles are strapped to ribs, knives pressed against thighs, and grenades tucked into folds. They sneak into the base through a secret passage and set up explosives in every corner. After confirming the hostages' safety and locations, Jake reaches out to a rescue team of choppers.
Time to make your choice.
To secure her friend's safety, Badia agrees to the marriage proposal with Amir, and Sheikh al-Shamali is made to marry them together. He gets killed after the ceremony. In a couple of minutes, Amir's men report to him that the money is fake, and that they also found a tracker inside it. Amir gets furious and kills Awina on the spot. He orders that all women be brought to him, and that they take off their burqas for identification. That's when the retaliation starts. The explosions start to go off, destroying most of the soldiers and causing confusion in the camp. Jake and Medic head to the cage where the hostages are kept and lead them out. The Taliban soldier holds the exit long enough for the hostages to slip through with the machine gun at the back of a van, hurling a grenade that rattles the walls and buries a group of militants in rubble. Shooter provides massive support. She covers fire, with precise shots dropping enemies before they can aim, while Medic helps in getting the girls into the vehicle. Malek helps with the explosions as well, destroying as many terrorists as he can. Deeper inside, Jake finally comes face to face with Amir. He recognizes her instantly, spits curses at her, calls her an invader, a devil dressed as a woman. He lunges first, a wild swing with a dangerous-looking machete. Jake does her best to block his attacks with a rifle, which gets destroyed shortly after. He slams her against the rock wall, his forearm crushing her throat. Seeing death flash before her eyes, her adrenaline rush takes over, and she manages to overpower him and snatch his weapon, which she eventually uses to slit his throat. The Taliban police covering for them get shot by one of the terrorists. Medic tries to resume his place, but she gets her head grazed by a bullet. Luckily for her, it's not fatal. Malik sees her and immediately drags her back into the car. Jake sees Geek under some rumblings of explosions and tries to save her, but Geek asks her to go without him and that she'd buy time for them. The rest of the terrorists start to close in, so Jake is left with no other choice but to leave her behind. Immediately as she leaves, Geek pulls out a different explosive device and obliterates herself and a good number of the terrorists, also sealing their way. Malik drives the girls out of the cave, where the long-awaited choppers arrive at last. They quickly usher the girls aboard the choppers, which immediately take off afterwards. As the helicopters lift into the sky, Jake doesn't board. She turns instead to Malik and climbs into the passenger seat of his battered truck. The two of them then drive away from the cave while listening to loud music. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video.